Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another video right here on Freewill Photos. Today we're going to be editing a bird photo starting out in Lightroom. This is not Lightroom Classic. This is Lightroom, which is almost a lighter version of Lightroom Classic. I enjoy using this, especially for quick videos and quick edits and things of that sort. And that's kind of been my go-to, which is why I'm starting there. And then I'll probably jump into Photoshop, do some other edits, and finish up. Now, if you're new here, consider hitting the subscribe button. I do make videos quite regularly, centered around On1 Photo Raw and other photo editing applications, such as Lightroom today. So let's jump into the computer and get this edit started. So here we are inside of the computer, and you can see I'm using Lightroom here. And I've already opened up the photo, but it really isn't that big of a deal. Now, I'm going to close down my browser pane over there on the left-hand side. That's just going to give me extra space to kind of work on this particular image and see it full frame here. Now, for my own purposes, I just need to see, okay, so I was using my A7R4 61 megapixels. So that's what we're working with here today. All right. Now, first thing first, this is the raw file, so I need to develop it. Now, this is no different than working in any other software where you would have to develop a raw file. So, don't overthink it when it comes to Lightroom or any editing software. So I'll probably just pull up on the exposure a touch, even though I don't think I really need it. So I'll probably just leave that where I set it for now. And then we'll come back to that. What I really need to figure out is how to get some good colors in this particular image. And that is always tricky, all right? So instead of modifying any of the light, I think I'm just gonna come up here and click on these profiles. And I wanna find a profile that's going to give me that color pop. So Adobe Landscape actually looks pretty good. Let's see if we have camera matching and landscape out of the camera. It's too yellow for me, so I'm probably not going to use that. So we'll come back here and I'll go with the landscape version. I'll try Vivid just to see. No, I like the landscape version. So we'll go ahead and hit back with Adobe Landscape selected. Now we can really start to modify this image. The other thing that I'm starting to see here is I'm not a huge fan of the crop. The subject is the bird. It seems like there's just too much surrounding area. So I'm going to go ahead and crop this in. And, let me change the aspect ratio to maybe a 4:3. And we'll see what that does for us. Because I don't think that this really needs to be... you don't need a whole lot of information, right? There's a bird and a bird sitting on a bird feeder. Maybe something like that could work. And I could always come back and edit this. The whole purpose of working in a software like Lightroom is that everything's non-destructive. So I can always come back, all right? So we'll go ahead and commit that to our image. And now I think it's time to start working with some local adjustments, because there's really not much globally, even with the color here, which there are a ton of options, like a ton of options when it comes to color, right? I could sit here, I could use the little picker here, and I could just click and drag this around to really kind of fine tune what I want that particular hue to be there. But I don't think I want to do that, because yeah, I think I'm gonna actually reset this. So let's come back. So now that I have this reset, I'm actually gonna work with the temperature of the white balance. All right. So it's a little too warm, even though I think I shot it pretty warm. I want to go ahead and pull down, make this a little bit more blue. All right. And I could probably pull up on the vibrance just a touch, and that's going to help with a lot of that color in a more intelligent way, as opposed to saturation, which is a little bit more of a global, like everything just gets more potent. All right. Now, I'm going to back off on the saturation a little bit because the reds are starting to get a little crazy there. Now, I will use the point color, but I'm actually going to use that in the local adjustments. So we'll go ahead and click on masking, and for the sake of brushes, all right, brushes for me just seem to work very well. So all I'm going to do is brush right over this particular bird, and I don't have to be overly precise because I'm going to be using that point color, and I'm going to sample a color essentially, and then whatever that color is what the adjustment is going to give me. So I'm not overly concerned. I just really want to paint relatively close to the edges of the bird, but as long as the bird gets covered mostly, that's all that really matters. So we'll do something like that. All right, and then I'm going to come over to point color, and I'm going to click the eyedropper tool. I have that selected, and I'm just going to sample this hue or this color here. All right, now what I like to do is saturation shift. So I'm just going to push this left and right until I get a look out of the bird that I think is going to be pretty good. So, and this is all trial and error. There's no right or wrong. I mean, I guess there could be a wrong. Maybe make the red a little bit brighter. And I'll be honest, I don't fully understand the point color. I just understand what I'm trying to accomplish, which is just to saturate this bird a little bit, but more selectively. So if I were to turn this off and turn it back on, you can see it's just kind of putting a little bit of a punch to the bird. All right, now I will come back up here and I will open up the shadows on the bird because I think the bird is a little dark. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit the plus icon here, and I'm going to select the background because I think the background is a little too bright. I'm going to go ahead and lower the exposure in the background. And that's a very simple adjustment. I do this quite often on my edits. So we'll let that figure out what the background is here. Okay. Let's see what the heck is being selected. Let's go with white on black. Yeah. Okay. So we got some work to do here. Let's go ahead and click add, grab a brush. And what we want to do is add to the mask. So I'm going to go larger, and I'm just going to paint this in because I don't need the bird feeder in my foreground. I just need the bird to be in my foreground. And then we'll paint this area in. And I'm not making this overly perfect because I don't think that these types of masks need to be. But I am going to do a subtract, and I'm just going to subtract this portion so that way the bird doesn't start to take on some of those adjustments that I'm about to apply to the background. Okay, so I think that will do us some good. Let's go ahead and go back to color overlay. Yeah, that looks pretty decent. Not the perfect mask, but it's okay. I'm going to go ahead and grab the exposure and just pull that down. And you can see how that's helping the bird kind of pop and stand off on this overall image. So I'm going to hit the plus icon one more time. This time I'm going to use a radial gradient. I'm going to put this right over the bird to start with. And for any of you who have watched my tutorials in the past, you already know what I'm doing. You can see that once you learn editing techniques, they just work in other software. So you don't have to know every single software. You just need to know where the basic tools are. And then you can apply a lot of those adjustments. All right. Now, what I need to do is invert this because I don't want the effect of what I'm about to do to apply to the bird. So what I'm going to do is click the three dots and hit invert. All right. So now that it's inverted, I'm just going to go ahead and pull down on the overall exposure. And then I'm going to actually shrink this because I don't need it to be a perfect mask, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and pull down on my exposure, or bring my exposure back up just a little bit, because I don't want it to be like overly dark. All right. And then what I also like to do with this particular mask is pull down on the saturation, and that just helps with, again, more separation from the subject to the final image here, or the background here. All right. So let's go ahead and close down our adjustments there. This is what we started off with, and this is where we are. Now, this is good to go. I'm going to actually give that a flag for the pick. I'm going to right click, and what we're going to do is go edit in Photoshop. All right. The reason why I want to take it into Photoshop is because I'm going to use other plugins, and I kind of want to tweak this that much further. So we'll let Photoshop load up, and then I'll jump back once it opens. All right, so here we are inside of Photoshop. I got my image with all of my raw edits adjusted onto it. Now it's time for us to kind of stylize and have some fun. Now, there are a ton of programs that I could use, but the very first thing that I do whenever I open up Photoshop is I click on the background, hit Command and J. That just duplicates it, so I always have a copy just in case I mess something up, because I'm probably going to. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and click on Filter, and we're going to come down to Skyloom, and we're going to run some Luminar Neo on this. All right, so now we got Luminar opened up, and this is a lot of fun for me because I never know what I'm going to do inside of here. I play around with these presets just to see what each one could do for an image. And they don't always work, right? That's okay though, because I just jumped to another one. So these are all, this one isn't loading. This one, now this one looks pretty cool, right? I actually like the way that this one looks. We'll come to City Thrills and then Frosty. I'm not a huge fan of those two, but I do like that one. That one, it's a little yellow for my taste, but I do like it, all right? And then, oh, didn't mean to zoom out there. We'll go about there. All right, so wonder what we can do with Savannah. All right, and I'm gonna speed through this until I find one that I like. Okay, so I found a preset that I want to start with, and it is Warming Sun. Now, I'm going to have to modify this a little bit. I can already tell. So I'm just going to pull down on it to about 32. I think that that's going to give me the look that I'm going for. And we'll click on edit to see what this is actually doing to my overall image. All right. So click on edits, and we can see everything that's going on here. I have atmosphere AI, mood, high key, super contrast, details, color, enhance AI, and develop. So let me see what the color is doing, which it's just got some HSL adjustments here. Looks like some desaturation and some luminance and a hue shift in the greens and the oranges. So I think I could work with that. There's supposed to be some fog in here. Let me crank that up. All right, so it's only in the upper right portion of the image. Now that's weird. Why are you only in the upper right? There must be a masking thing. It's probably a radial mask, which I'm not a huge fan of the masking in Luminar. That is a conversation for a different day. But okay, so we'll just roll with it. And for the sake of the tutorial, I'm just going to say that I like this, all right? We'll send this back into Photoshop. So I'll hit apply. It's going to go back into Photoshop, and things are going to be great. Okay, so turn this off and turn it back on. You can kind of see it kind of just adds a little bit of a saturation to it. Not a whole lot is going on, but what I'll do is come over here and let's go with a analog effects. We'll kind of make this a little bit more old-timey-ish, and maybe that will do us some, we'll update later. I should probably update this. Okay, maybe this could work. Let's go ahead and apply that. No, maybe the top one. Classic camera number 2. It's a little green in the background. You know what? I'll go with this one. Burnt edges. Yeah, we'll go with burnt edges. It is a little extreme on the ends there, so I think there's a border on here or a frame. I'm gonna just turn that off. Okay, yeah, I could work with this. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit apply. And what this is gonna do is send it back into Photoshop, and then I'm going to use a blend mode to actually blend this in, and that will be the final image once I get this ready to go. So, do I wanna use screen? No. What about overlay, soft light? I think I'm gonna go with soft light. And then I'm just going to pull down the opacity to blend this with what I brought in from Luminar to about there. And then I'm going to add in a curves adjustment layer, and I'm going to protect my shadows and my extreme highlights. And I'm just gonna boost. Maybe I'll bring my highlights up too. Something like that. Yeah. I don't like the curves. Let's get rid of curves. Let's go with a brightness and contrast. We'll just keep it simple. Throw some brightness in there and contrast it. Yeah, brightness and contrast seems to do the trick for what I was trying to do. Okay, so I'll go ahead and hit Command and S. This is going to save it back. And no, I don't really care. It's all right. It can keep all the layers. I normally hit Command Shift and E, or Command Shift Option E. But yeah, so let's see about going back into Lightroom. You know what? I think that is the final image. So here is our final image that we were able to create. Hopefully you found some value in this video of me just jumping between Lightroom, Photoshop, Luminar, as well as analog effects from the Nick collection, just to show you that you can really move between software and edit your image to refine a look. Now, this was a very subtle example of that, but still, nonetheless, it is an edit that I just wanted to kind of walk through. So if you found value, smash the like button. If you're new here, hit subscribe. And if you got questions, then leave them in the comment section. Until next time, I want you guys to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.